Hi, first graders. It is time to read our story, The Magic Treehouse, number 8, Midnight on the Moon. When we last left Jack and Annie, they had fallen down and they could not get back up. And then they ran into a mysterious spaceman. And Jack wrote that they were Jack and Annie and hello on a piece of paper. And then the man that was in space, he wrote this back to them. So we're going to find out what it means. Stars, said Annie. He drew stars. Maybe it's a space map, said Jack. Space map? Hey, Jack, map starts with M. Oh, wow, said Jack. This must be the fourth M thing. Let's ask him what his map means, said Annie. She turned around and we'll never know now. Why? That's why, Annie pointed. The moon man was flying over the mountains. Thanks, cried Annie. Chapter 8. One star to another. Who was that guy? Said Jack. What does his map mean? I don't know, said Annie, but let's see if it works. Jack took a deep breath. Yeah, we'd better hurry. I think I'm running out of air. It feels harder to breathe. For me too, said Annie. Go slow. Don't breathe too much. He and Annie took long, floating steps towards the moon base. Jack held his breath like he was underwater. By the time they got to the white dome, that's like the big building, he was ready to burst. Annie pushed a button beside the huge door. It slid open. They hurried into the airlock. The door closed behind them, and the door to the hallway opened. Jack opened the visor of his helmet. He took a long, deep breath and let it out. Let's get out of these suits, said Annie. Good idea, said Jack. He was dying to free his arms and legs. As they moved clumsily into the spacesuit storeroom, Jack felt heavy again. He and Annie unlocked each other's helmets, gloves, boots, and pulled everything off. Then they stepped out of their bulky suits. Phew, said Jack. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. It was great to be free, even if he no longer felt as light as a feather. Hurry, said Annie. Peanut's waiting. She led the way down the steps to the bright landing chamber. Yay, she said softly. Jack was relieved to see the treehouse was still there. Soon they would be heading home. He couldn't wait. Jack and Annie crawled through the treehouse window. We're back, Peanut, said Annie. Squeak! Peanut ran to the letter M on the floor. We missed you, said Annie. She patted the mouse's head. We met a moon man. Sorry, Peanut, but you have to move, said Jack. We have to put the map on the M. Annie gently lifted the mouse off of the M. Jack tore the star map out of his notebook and placed it on the M next to the mammoth bone, the mango, and the moonstone. He sighed, then sat back on his heels. Hand me the Pennsylvania book, he said. They needed the Pennsylvania book to get back home. Jack turned to look at Annie. It's not working, Jack, she said. The book's not here. What? Was the map the wrong thing? They looked around the treehouse. It's definitely not here. Oh no! Jack's heart sank. He picked up the star map and stared at it. Squeak, squeak! Peanut jumped out of Annie's arms and scurried back onto the letter M. I've got an idea, said Jack. He reached in his pack and took out a pencil. "What are you doing?" said Annie. "You know how you draw a constellation? You connect all the stars. What happens if we try that?" Let's look back at his star map. I wonder what's going to happen if he connects all the dots. Does that look like anything to you? Let's see. What happens if we try that? He drew a line from one star to another. He kept drawing until all the stars were connected. "Let me see," said Annie. Jack held out the paper so they could both study it. What does it look like? "It looks like a mouse," said Annie. "Yeah," said Jack. "Is there such thing as a mouse constellation?" said Annie. "I don't think so," said Jack. Squeak! Annie and Jack looked at Peanut. She was still standing on the letter M. "Oh, wow, Jack," Annie whispered. "I think I know what the fourth thing is." "Me too," said Jack. "It's a mouse," they both said together. "Squeak! Squeak!" Look, there's exclamation points. I think that's because Peanut is excited that they got the right answer. "Maybe the spell is moonstone, mango, mammoth bone, mouse," said Annie. Jack touched each M thing as he whispered. Moonstone, mango, mammoth bone, mouse. "Let's say it over and over and see what happens," said Annie. So together they chanted, "Moonstone, mango, mammoth bone, mouse. Moonstone, mango, mammoth bone, mouse." Suddenly, a bright light filled the treehouse. The light got brighter and brighter and brighter. The brightness was blinding and whirling. The air spun with brightness, and then everything was clear. Everything was clear. Peanut the mouse was gone, but Morgan Le Fay stood before Jack and Annie. Chapter 9. Morgan. "Thank you," Morgan said softly. "You have freed me of the magician's spell." Jack just stared at her. "You were Peanut?" said Annie. Morgan nodded and smiled. Morgan was Peanut the whole time. Did anybody guess that? I think I remember some of our friends guessing that at school. Good job. "Really? You were with us the whole time on all our missions?" said Jack. Morgan nodded again. "Why did we have to go on this mission to find a mouse if you were always with us?" "To break the spell, you had to be on the moon," said Morgan. "You could have broken it the minute we arrived." "Oh, that's what you were trying to say," said Annie. "We didn't have to leave the moon base at all." Morgan nodded, smiling. "But the moon man came along to help us," said Annie. "He drew a constellation of a mouse. Is he a friend of yours?" Morgan shrugged. "Let's just say we had a little talk. He stopped by the moon base while you were out." "The same way you had a talk with the ninja master, right?" said Jack. "And the monkey, and the sorcerer." Morgan nodded. "I always squeaked to the ones who helped you." There's Morgan. Okay, I think we're going to stop there. We have to finish the rest of this chapter still. And then next is chapter 10, our last chapter, and it's called Earth Life. All right, first grade, we'll see what happens next time. I think I'm going to have to figure out how to get the rest of the Magic Treehouse books. Goodbye. Thanks for listening to my story.